Hello, this is Cho of the Shiny Colors Discord, and welcome to another episode of the Shiny Review. Today we have 3 cards that we need to talk about: the new limited P-SSR for Mei, the support SSR for Koito, and the event SSR for Asahi. I think all 3 of these cards are very good, so if you want to consider going for this banner now, I recommend it. Let's talk about Mei. Rounding out the limited selection for Straylight, Mei 3 follows the trend by being the vocal limited unit for Straylight, to contrast visual Asahi and dance Fuyuko. In terms of relative strength, Mei 3 focuses on being a buffing unit with reasonable appeal damage to back it up, but also has the same issue as Fuyu 2 with her lackluster link appeals. Her buffs and passives are incredibly buff, and her memory appeal will help kickstart the mostly difficult to put together vocal Straylight. If you manage to push Mei 3 all the way up to 4 stars, she's much stronger than Mei 2 in the same realm of being a vocal unit. That being said, Mei 2 would also need to be 4 stars just to even have access to vocal, but that can be technically reasonable given that she's a permanent SSR. Otherwise, Mei 3 is a powerful option that, much like Fuyu 2, is waiting on a little more support to truly shine as a unit. I think they only really need 1, maybe 2 produced cards. Probably a new Fuyuko, and then vocal Straylight will definitely be well on its way. Her roles are attacker, center, and buffer, and I'm somewhere between moderately recommending and highly recommending that you pull for this Mei. I think she is incredibly good, and she might actually make a new support setup for teams that can afford to bring along 2 extra units. Mei's initial skill is a vocal 3.5 appeal that buffs your vocal by 15% for 3 turns, then buffs all 3 of your appeals by 15% for 5 turns. So you have a total of vocal 30% and dance visual 15. This then links into a vocal 1.5. Her maxed out skill is a vocal 5.0 that buffs your vocal by 30% for 3 turns, and then your vocal dance and visual by 30% for 5 turns. So a combined vocal 60%, dance visual 30%. This links into the same vocal 1.5 appeal. Mei's 1-star passive is a vocal 50% up that only requires Mei on your team. This has a 30% chance to activate 3 times, and also unlocks an additional plus 50 vocal uncap. At 2 stars, she gains a vocal 75% up that requires an active vocal buff. Again, this has a 30% chance to activate 3 times, and unlocks an additional vocal plus 50 uncap. At 3 stars, she gains access to both a vocal plus 150 uncap and a mental plus 100, and her memory appeal when maxed out is a vocal dance visual 10% buff for 10 turns, and links into 2 separate attacks. The first is a vocal 0.5 to 2.5 appeal, based on how many dance and visual buffs you have combined. If you recall from talking about Asahi 2 or Fuyu 2, this means that you technically just need a combination of dance and visual buffs that equate to 4. So as long as you have, say, 4 dance buffs, you get the maximum amount of damage. If you have 1 dance buff and 3 visual buffs, that's also the same maximum amount of damage. The secondary appeal is a vocal 0.7 to 3.5 that scales based on how many vocal active buffs you have. So if you have 4 vocal buffs, then it will do the maximum 3.5. For support recommendations, for Mei, capitalizing on vocal is the top priority. Fuyuko is the easy pick, and then you can opt for either more vocal gain or SP gain as you feel appropriate. The new Asahi and Fuyuko are practically necessary for late-game producers that want the strongest iteration of vocal Straylight. As for some alternatives, Koito, who we'll talk about in a little bit, ends up actually being a pretty reasonable option thanks to her gold passive, while the others are here to help build stats. So consider all of these cards while building vocal Straylight in Grad, as you find appropriate. Overall as a center, Mei gets about the same grade as both Asahi and Fuyu, SS+. This is a very, very strong memory appeal that can absolutely do a ton of damage once you get it set up properly. Much like the other 2 Straylight members, this memory appeal is ridiculous in the correct setup, which is something that Straylight can very easily set up with just a few appeals. You can't really go wrong with any decision in regards to what Straylight center you would like to have. Just make sure that you're properly buffed up before using this appeal, otherwise it's going to feel a little underwhelming. As a unit, she's actually somewhere between S+ and SS-, mostly because of the fact that she is a very solid support style unit. Where Mei truly shines is as a support/utility unit for other teams, for the time being. While you can build a team around Mei 3, maybe Asahi 1, and some flavor of Fuyuko, hence why we didn't really have much of a team recommendation this time around, since it's very limited and not very open-ended, right? Mei 3 can pair up with Fuyu 2 on a vocal dance team as a new buffing pair. So if you find yourself using vocal teams, say for example Illumination Stars, you might want to consider Mei for a significant boost to your damage output. Maybe you're not a big fan of some of the other team combinations like Sakuya Kiriko, or maybe you just don't have the right Rinzai Choco combination that works for you. Maybe Mei Fuyu could be something to try out in the near future. Next we have our support SSR, Koito, who is also a limited card on the banner. Let's just take a moment to appreciate the support skill setup. There's a lot going on here. Koito's first SSR support is absolutely overloaded with different abilities and options in order to build things up. If you can manage to keep Koito in either the talk show or radio show, you'll find yourself getting strong real quick. Vocal Nocchill appreciates this Koito a lot, and even non-Nocchill teams can appreciate double Stamina Mastery and double Uncap Mastery. Her support skills are Idol's Bond, Promised Recovery, and Rest Boost, and she has 5 unique support skills. The first is Unit Mastery SP, capping out at +8 at level 70. Next, Koito has both Radio Mastery and Talk Mastery Vocal Limit, which caps out at +5 at level 65. So if you have this card at least at level 65, every single time she's in the radio show or the talk show, you'll gain a permanent +5 to your maximum potential vocal stat, which is very, very good, especially since this can stack up with Perfects, becoming a +10. Lastly, she has both Radio Mastery Stamina and Talk Mastery Stamina to help cut down on the heavy stamina costs of both of those rooms. This reaches +3 at level 75. And her support appeal scales, going up to a vocal 3.1 at level 60 and a 3.5 at level 80. Her TFD idea is appeal, and her insight token for grad is mental. Koito's 1-star passive is a vocal 35% up that also gives you a reaction chance of 10% up. This requires you to have an active reaction buff, so think of it as +10 to whatever your current reaction chance is. This has a 20% chance to activate 3 times. Her 1-star passive is a vocal 60% up, with another reaction chance +10%, as long as you again have an active reaction buff. This has a 20% chance to activate 3 times. Her uncap is a +100 to vocal, and her 4-star appeal is a vocal 3.0 that buffs your vocal by 50% until you take damage, but also increases your attention by 30% for 2 turns. Her event passive is a vocal 30% up that requires Koito on your team, and it has a 20% chance to activate twice. Koito earns a very easy A+, and honestly might even be a double S unit depending on where you use her. Koito is a real answer for Vocal Nocchill to really kick into high gear, alongside the Hinata support released not too long ago. The combination of increasing your attention while also increasing your vocal stat pairs up perfectly with something like Toru 2, who does very similar things. Increasing your attention while also having the ability to dodge will further compound onto the amount of damage that something like Toru 2 can absolutely build up to. Her impact on other vocal teams will be interesting to see unfold, but they certainly wanted her to be a Nocchill-only support. People will probably find a way to splash this Koito onto other teams due to her double stamina and her reasonably easy-to-use passives. I highly recommend that you pull for this Koito, especially if you're trying to play in Vocal Nocchill. If you're just a vocal player, I moderately recommend it. I still think that she's a great card to pick up for the time being. Lastly, we have our event card, Asahi. And honestly, this new Asahi support is pretty legit. Having access to Unit Mastery at +8 is honestly not terrible, as it means you can pair her up with the Vocal Fuyuko from New Year's and get +16 Vocal if you are building SSR3 Mei. Having access to a generous amount of stamina support will help keep you active throughout producing with this support, and her scaling appeal can help in tricky situations. She's a real high-value event SSR. Her support skills are Idol's Bond, Promise Recovery, Rest Boost, and Stamina support, which Stamina support actually goes up to a pretty hefty +4, which is a lot higher than some of the average Stamina supports. And her unique support skill is Unit Mastery Vocal, reaching +8 at level 75. Her TFD idea is Mental, and her insight token for grad is Dance. Asahi's 1-star passive is a vocal 18% up that requires an active vocal buff. This has a 30% chance to activate once. Her 2-star passive is a vocal 35% up that requires an active visual buff. This has a 30% chance to activate once. Her 3-star uncap is a +50 to vocal, and her 4-star appeal is a vocal 2.5 that increases your vocal and visual by 10% for 5 turns. Her event passive is a vocal 20% up that requires Asahi on your team, and it has a 40% chance to activate twice. Asahi earns a very easy A+, and can range anywhere up to an S-, I feel. I think this card is top-notch for events. Event Asahi is honestly a power play for Event SSRs, with the only hangup being her gold passive being somewhat awkward to tap into under certain circumstances. But otherwise, she's a very complete package that puts her on par with tons of gacha SRs, but has her own niche for Vocal Straylight that helps it hit the ground running. Asahi is a fantastic card for new players. I highly recommend farming for this card while you still have time, as I think you'll find value with this card, whether you're a new or older player. And that's going to do it for the video today. Thank you so much as always for watching. Next time we'll be talking about the next banner in a few days, which will be the new P-SSR for Sakuya, and we have a new mono support on the way. Also, at the time of this recording, it's going to be 1 day until the 1 year anniversary of starting the Shiny Review. So thank you so much for making it through this entire year with us. I know it's been real crazy, and we've had not only a lot of world events happen, but a lot of cool things happening in Shiny. So thank you so much for subscribing if you haven't already. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. We really appreciate it. So, till next time, I've been Cho, thanks for watching, and have a wonderful rest of your day.